We talk about it a lot on the show, Alvin. There's a lot of fear mongering in the world today, whether it's a trade war, a housing market crash, a public or political enemy, a virus, a Mayan calendar, aliens, nuclear war, World War III. It's always something, but it's never anything. Don't buy any of it. Avert your gaze. If you're a real estate agent, go ask the most successful agent in your office or that you know if they think or worry about the housing market crash. If you're a lender, go ask a top producing loan officer what they think of mortgage delinquency signaling a repeat of 2008. Go ask your ultra successful whatever if they're participating in the fear mongering, and I guarantee you they're not. Stop worrying. Stop using the impending doom as a crutch and go out there and find your fucking dog.
Oh, I love it. Great lead in. Yep, got some things happen. Show number 652.
Al, what do you got?
Really just glad to be here. A lot of craziness, to your point. A lot of stuff happening, nothing happening. Everything's changed. Everything stayed the same. Turn off the TV, put down the phone, get outside, look up at the sky. Sun's still shining, leaves are green. Everything's good, right?
The kids would say, to sum that up, the kids would say, touch grass.
Touch grass. That's it. Ground yourself.
All right. So first things first, we'll jump into what's your rate. So Mortgage News Daily publishes rates, and it's really just a broad spectrum best guess. It uses like a measuring stick. All right. This isn't what you're going to qualify for. Perhaps you could be slightly lower. Perhaps you're going to be slightly higher. This is just an average, and it gives a good picture. So we got 30-year fixed rate around 6.9 for conventional loan. FHA's in the low sixes, 6.35, and VA's virtually the same, 6.37. So we've got rates in the sixes from the low to the high sixes.
So nothing really changed. You'll see that number, that 692, the conventional number, kind of jump up or jump down. We saw it down a couple weeks ago. I think it got as low as 6.5, 6.6, and then last week saw it climb up to, I believe it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, climbed up a little over 7, and now we're just below 7. So it's a sliding scale. It's constantly moving day to day, but not significantly.
Hang tight, and let's see what happens. So we're going to jump into the 10-year real quick, the Treasury bond. It's a favorite indicator of where rates might be going. As this thing rises and falls, so do mortgage rates, typically. And we're down for the day, 4.276. Look, it's been hovering for about 2 weeks between 4.2 and 4.5, 4.4, and that's where you're seeing rates 6, 9, 7, and 8, 7.
You see on your little graph there that little trench, looks like Mariana Trench over to the right, where it got dipped below 4, sharp down, sharp up, short-lived.
So no real changes, and a lot of this volatility is being attributed to the ongoing trade war. More than rate right now, I think that buyer sentiment is being affected by the volatility and the uncertainty, and that was most pronounced in this most recent consumer sentiment index. And here we can see on Market Watch, consumer sentiment sinks approaching a 3-year low with inflation worries highest since 1981. I don't know who they're asking if they're worried about inflation. I wasn't asked.
No, I wasn't either. I
Were you
must have
asked?
missed the call. No,
Yeah.
I gotta check my voicemails, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, consumer confidence is down, and I don't really know what the index entails, but if you think about it this way, it just goes back to uncertainty. People are not certain on what the rate is going to be hour to hour. They're not certain on what's going to happen to their stock holdings. They're not certain what's happening with their 401k. So I think that people, especially people that have money in a 401k or in the stock market, and they see it go down, they go and then go up or go down, they're feeling it. They're seeing it. They're checking it. They're feeling it, and they're just maybe just kind of paralyzed by it. And we're seeing that in on the housing market side, where it's kind of stagnant over the last couple of weeks. The mortgage rates and the U.S. economy as a whole is kind of driven by or measured by the treasuries. Consumer confidence or investor confidence, whether home or abroad, is measured by the bond market, the treasury market. And over the last couple of weeks, there's been like this movement like sell America. And what they mean by when they're saying that is sell the treasuries.
Yeah.
We've seen money move from U.S. treasuries into German markets and so on. There's speculation that China's dumping treasuries to try and hurt us in the midst of the trade war. I don't know what's going on there, but I get the feeling that as soon as this trade war works itself out, they come to some sort of agreement, and we get back to some sort of status quo, that money will move back into bonds, back into treasuries, and the 10-year will come down, and so will rates. And I think it'll happen very fast.
Yeah. The floodgates are going to open at some point, once that consumer confidence comes back. Like you said, you nailed it. People are just nervous. People don't really know what to expect right now. It's a little bit of a tumultuous time. But I think as things kind of settle in, and we don't obviously have a timetable for that, but once this trade war kind of dies down and that consumer confidence comes back, you're going to see, again, people reinvesting into America, into treasuries, right? Which is going to drive the 10-year down. It's going to drive rates down, and then you're going to see this, this boom in terms of folks looking to get out there and buy, right? And we've said it a billion times on this show that's you don't want to be in the crowd when that happens, because it's going to be a lot harder to get what you want. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different markets in the United States and how different markets are doing and how competitive they are, or how busy they are. But regardless, once that happens, every market is going to pick up. And it's if affordability is the issue now, it's only going to get worse at that point in time. So we just talked about the rates. The rates don't change much day to day. They're not going to change much week to week. We saw one little blip in the radar where it shot down and then shot back up even higher. The folks that were already looking or were already in process during that time were able to take advantage of it. Everybody else, was like, oh, hurry up and get out there and look. By the time they got out there and found a house, it was already gone, right? You missed that opportunity to lock into maybe a 6.5% with no points. So I said, my advice stays the same, to get out there and start looking now if you're going to look, because it's only going to get harder, as things kind of die down. And again, we don't know if it's going to be sooner or later, but it certainly is going to change much day to day or month to month right now. So. Right.
And I think it's a great time to slip under the radar and avoid the crowd. People think that the rates are going to go down and they're going to jump in the market, and or homes are going to plummet and they're going to jump in the market and they're going to get some great deal, because it's just not how it works. If rates go down, there's going to be a ton of people in the market. Yeah. There's going to be, there's going to be bidding wars. And if you're trying to get your ducks in a row after that happens, you're late to the party.
Yeah. You've already missed you've missed the boat. You're going to
be with the crowd. If you have no want or need and you could care less and then you're indifferent, sure, hang tight. If you have a want or a need, take action. Like Al said, we're going to look at a couple markets that are hot, and there's a couple there's markets that are cold. But I think a continuing theme right now, whether values fluctuate or not, is up for discussion. But a theme is inventory is growing. So buyers have more choices right now. So right now, buyers have more choices and values are holding steady.
Yeah.
sounds like it's a good time if you're a buyer to get in. So,
and if the best analogy I could give to this is if you're going, let's say you're going to the amusement park, let's say you're going to Hershey Park, right?
You're Hershey Park happy?
We're Hershey Park happy, right? And let's say you want to get in there and you want to ride some rides before the crowds get crazy. You get there and you're parked and you're ready to walk in when the gates open. If you wait to leave and drive to get there after the park already opens, if you leave your house at 9, park opens at 9, you leave your house at 9, by the time you get there, you're just in the mix of the crowd. You're walking in with everybody else. You're going to wait in line just like everybody else is. Whereas if you were at the gates already parked, already waiting to get in, you might get in, hit a couple rides before the crowds get nuts. Right?
You're at the chocolate factory, just sitting tight, catching a break from all the rides you've ridden.
Yeah, absolutely. Once it's getting hot outside and everybody else is sitting there waiting for a storm runner, you know what I mean? Hour and a half wait probably. It's a long one, you know what I mean? If it's a hot day and you're already in the chocolate factory riding around waiting to get your Hershey Kiss at the end, which is free by the way.
Okay. I don't know if you work for Hershey now and like this is just formality.
All I'm saying, so the moral of the story, if I could bring this thing full circle, go to Hershey Park if you haven't been in a while. Okay? That's it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Hershey Park is a magical place. Yeah, I like the fact that you worked in Hershey Park, and it's fantastic. The analogy,
I think it works. I think people are going to buy in on that. People are going to be like, you know what? The guy makes sense. And what are you? You're hitting a couple rides. What are you, like a Twizzler? Huh? How tall are you?
Look.
You Reese's Cup?
I know that one time me and you were at Hershey Park, and we were waiting in line for Storm Runner, and it stormed, and that thing didn't run.
This is true.
Like, come on. You can't just change your name. I am ultra literal, and I can't live in
an analogy kind of world. Okay, well,
yeah.
Well, let's stick to the house thing. Just buy now, because it's not going to get easier. Is that better?
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move over into the housing market. We're gonna take a look at some things, but one item that really sparked a lot of conversation in the last week was Zillow put out a new projection for their values as they see it over the next 12 months. So Zillow turns full housing market bare recently. They went from thinking that values were going to continue to grow to their latest report projecting that U.S. home prices will fall 1.7% between March 2025 and March 2026. Zillow's economists last month had us at a plus 0.8% in value growth. So a couple things about this. A, realtors of the world back me up. They all are like, his estimates is bullcrap. They don't know what they're talking about value. It drives agents crazy when a seller is like presenting to them a Zillow's estimate and like thinks their house should be listed for that. So if Zillow is so bad at predicting value, home values or current market values, why are we putting any stake in their projection? Also, it changes month over month, so be weary of that.
Mm-hmm.
Alvin.
Yeah, I mean, it changes market to market. And I think once we take a look at the markets, we're going to get a better idea of how things actually look. You can't take a look at this thing as a whole. If you read the news or if you watch the news, they're going to tell you, the housing market's down or the housing market's up. It really depends on the area, because there's some areas that are absolutely booming right now, and there's some areas that's a little bit stagnant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's unfair, but people will read that and it'll influence their decision on whether or not to buy. And I agree. I think it's unfair, to kind of use that as a basis.
Yeah, it's unfair and it's misleading.
Well, it just shows how much influence a valuation website can have on the mentality of the public, on the market, on whether or not people are going to buy or sell their house, just based on, an article from a valuation company, the biggest valuation company, right?
Right,
so,
and it's pretty crazy, and you bring that up, and I never even thought of that. But also, like these giant valuation companies, lead generating, whatever, market influencers are getting bought by mortgage companies.
That's another crazy thing, isn't it?
So, like, that doesn't seem right. It seems like it's a recipe for disaster.
And maybe that's just us being, that's just the conspiracy side of us. Like, oh, what if they're doing this for nefarious purposes and this and that? But you certainly can't throw out the idea that it's possible, because those articles will absolutely influence whether or not people make a decision to buy or sell their house. So whether or not you want to believe it, it's a fact that they have the ability to do it. So.
Yeah. So all right, well, let's get into some markets here. We'll take a look. We'll try and take a look at a bunch, but we're going to focus on the markets that Al and I put most of our efforts in. We have most of our realtor relationships in, and that is, for me, South Florida, and for Al, Maryland. We both do business in each, so we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. I'm going to take Palm Beach. Palm Beach County, Florida. Single-family homes jumped 63.2%. Sale of single-family homes jumped 63.2% in Q1 of 2025. Whoa. Median price is up 11.6% year over year. And we're also seeing inventory surge. Single-family home listings increased 28% year over year, from 5,066 in March 2024 to 6,487 in March 2025. Median sale price also up 6% year over year. Closed sales actually
Palm
decreased.
Beach bringing the heat.
Palm Beach bringing the heat. And let me tell you something. Price is up. Values are up. If you bought last year in Palm Beach, you have 11%, gained 11%. The stock market in its best year does 10%.
Right.
That's crazy. But here's the kicker. There's more inventory, too. Single-family home sales is up 63%, but there's also more inventory. So if you're a buyer, it's a healthy, active market, but there's also an inventory surge. So you have more leverage. You're going out into the market, and you have more to pick from. If you miss out on a house, there's another one down the street.
Yeah.
The sellers know that.
You have the luxury of finding what you want, taking a little bit of time to find the house that you want. You know what I mean? Looking at a few properties, as opposed to when things are down, being pigeonholed into, hey, this is what's available and this is what you got to take if you want to buy now. You know what I mean?
So if you're a buyer in that area, like, I would urge you to get on the ball. Florida as a whole,
time machine and go back and buy.
Right, time machine. Florida as a whole is really tough, and I don't know much about many of the other markets, so I kind of try and stay in my lane. But South Florida, it's really a mixed landscape. It is actually insane, the difference between Miami and 100 miles north, which would be like the Treasure Coast, Jupiter, Stewart, Palm Beach, Martin County. But Miami and Broward counties are experiencing slowdowns with rising inventory and longer selling time. Well, just north of Miami, the Palm Beach, Martin County areas are seeing stability and even growth. Buyers are gaining more negotiating power due to increased inventory, and of course, affordability challenges are prevalent. Now, the other thing that Florida has going for it, especially the area that I'm talking about, is there is a ton of new builds happening. Whether nationally, new home starts or new home builds is fluctuating, I can tell you with my own eyeballs, they aren't slowing down. I mean, I can hear the trucks from my freaking lanai. Right? And I do enjoy being out on the lanai.
Absolutely. You look like a guy. You're in a tie-dye shirt. You love a lanai. Shirt screams lanai.
All right, Alvin. So that's the market down here. What's going on back home?
Maryland? Yeah. So, take a look at the Maryland market overview. A little different than Florida down in or South Florida. But average home value in Maryland stands at about 425, almost 426,000. 3.1% increase over the past year. So again, still the value's up, right? If you bought last year, you still got a little bit more value. March 2025 home sales totaled 4,823 units, 10% decrease compared to March of 2024. Okay, so amount of sales going down. Average sale price increased by 3.2%. Median sales price increased by 3.7% to 420,000. It's not bad. Homes are moving quickly. Median of about 12 days to pending status on Zillow.
So real quick, like 12 days is super fast.
Ridiculously fast. They're going up. There's just not a ton of inventory, and when they're going up, it's very competitive. There's just not a ton of inventory on the market, and I wouldn't say there's a ton of buyers, but there's definitely more buyers than there is inventory. So it is getting a little bit more competitive out here, where you don't have the same choices that you have in a market like Florida, right? You don't have the same availability to look and kind of wait and find the absolute perfect house. Because pretty much when that house goes up, it's selling pretty fast.
You have to be aggressive, and you need an aggressive real estate agent who is good at what they do and is on the ball and sharp. Yeah. And I have to say and give our dear friend Mike props, because he is so good at that. Yeah. If somebody wants to buy a home, he's going to make it happen for them, and that's what it takes in this market. Yeah.
And he's very aware of, it's not just the houses that are on the market. A guy like Mike keeps his finger on the pulse of houses that are coming on the market, and he has a good idea. I guess it's relationships that he has with other realtors and realtors within his network, where he can get something off market or knows when something's going to come on the market. So he's going to position himself in the best way possible to try to win that deal for his client. As opposed to somebody who isn't as well versed in the market and might wait until a house is already on the market, maybe for a couple of days, and they might not get the opportunity to.
Or if they just don't have the intensity,
it's another thing. Yeah,
it's just what it takes right now. People are like, oh, if you're going to be willy-nilly about it, it's just not going to happen. Look, I've got clients in Maryland that are looking and have been looking for a long time, 6+ months, 8+ months.
Yeah.
And they're just too casual, and it's hard for me to tell them, you got to turn up the freaking intensity, or your agent needs to turn up the intensity, because you're getting frustrated, because you're getting outbid, or you're not taking action on the house, and that's all because of the agent. And you try to tell people things, and it's just hard to get through to people sometimes. But
well, the other thing too is, if you tell us, or you tell your real estate agent, hey, I'm looking to buy a house, we're going to take that as we're running through walls to get you a house. We're going to find a way to get you a house. We're going to get you pre-approved as quickly as possible. We're going to let the realtor know everything that they need to know in order to put in an aggressive offer to get you a house. So if you're trying to, in this kind of market, if you're trying to get a deal and offer, tens of thousands of dollars lower than the asking price on the house, you're not going to win that. You know what I mean? You have to be aggressive if you want to buy a house. If you're legitimately in this market, you have to be aggressive. So
yeah. All right. Well, should we move out of Maryland? I know we've got some regional highlights, but I think that maybe moving on would. Well, do you want to go over the? Well, just why don't you do the regional highlights real quick?
Baltimore metro area.
Just I guess more than a regional highlight. Just let's take a look at Baltimore. Let's take a look at Baltimore, hon.
So new listings decreased by 5.2% from the previous week, but we're up 6.5% compared to the same time last year. This is Baltimore metro area. Market demand, the home demand index rose to 88 in April 2025, up from 75 in March, indicating a slow market, but showing signs of improvement. So,
I just realized that these this information is it's the source of the Baltimore Metro recap is Marnie Kirk, who is a Cummings and Company realtor that I just closed.
Michael!
Hey, look at this. Who is this guy? What is he doing?
What a beautiful surprise. That Tesla you're in? God bless America. You must be doing well in this market.
I got a notification, and so I just had to do it.
Mike, I sent you the link because, organically, it just so happens me and Al, we were doing a market recap of Florida and then Maryland, and we were talking about how the market in Maryland, values are still up, values are still going up, but there's definitely still an inventory shortage, and we got into talking about how it takes a certain real estate agent to get things done in this market. And you can shake your head, but it's honestly the truth that if you've got some willy-nilly real estate agent who's just like, let's just try and see, or taking it easy and doesn't have a level. It takes a level of an intensity in this market to get under contract. Urgency, intensity, whatever you want to call it. Mike, what can you say about that? Does it take urgency and intensity to get contracts accepted?
100%. Are we on?
We're live, baby. We're live.
Okay. So yes, you have to be aggressive. You gotta be violent to be able to make this happen. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're gonna be trampled and be walked right over.
Yeah.
There's the only way to get things done is to be so insanely aggressive and intentional to make it happen. Otherwise, you're going to get taken advantage of.
And that starts from the home search through negotiations. Like, I mean, if you're not aggressive about your home search and your plan, you're going to be floundering for 6 months, a year. Yes? No?
Yes, because I have an example. So I have a person that wanted to move to we'll just use Owings Mills as an example, which is a suburb outside of Baltimore.
Mike.
All right, how about now?
All right, take it from Owings Mills is a suburb of Baltimore.
So I had a client that was looking in a particular neighborhood only, even though they had no reason why they wanted to be in that neighborhood, just because they thought it was good. And good is a relative term to them. Mm-hmm. And whereas we could have definitely got them a home in the neighborhood next door or just within Owings Mills multiple times, but they wouldn't even look at them. And then we finally got them to branch out, and lo and behold, we got them under contract.
Nice.
So it's just a matter of what does the person really want? And just because they might say something like for instance, this neighborhood, they could have just said, well, I want this because, and this is why, and this is our plan. And once I understood those things and they opened up to me about those things, we were able to get them a home that's basically right down the street from where they wanted to be, and everything's good.
And they love it.
And we're not there yet, but
but part of that is just having a buyer that when they tell you they want to buy a house, they actually want to buy a house. They're motivated to buy a house, not somebody who's kind of like a flim-flammer, kind of on the fence, off the fence. I don't really know. Like, if you want to buy a house, you can find them someone that checks their boxes.
Yeah, you got to be locked in. If you want to be passive about it, if you're going to be passive about it, you're going to. This is what's going to happen. So the house is going to come onto the market or what we have off market, and it's going to be the one, in my opinion. And you're not really sure if this is the time for you, so you're like, I'm busy, I got to do this, that, and the other, I got to go wash my hair, that kind of thing. And so, and then you don't end up seeing it when it could have been the right one, it was the right one, could have got it off market maybe. That happens all the
Oh my
time.
God.
They want to buy a
Yeah,
house, but they don't want to
people
fully
think
commit to buying a house.
so
Right.
you don't so in fact you don't actually want to buy a house, and you need somebody to come. You need
Right.
somebody to be real with you that tells you, if you actually you've come through my office, you've reached out to me, you want to buy a house. Do you actually want to buy a house? Yes, I want to actually buy a house. Okay, what's your timeline? 3 months. Is it 3 months? Okay. All right. Well, here's what the things that we actually have to do to make it happen. And like our job as a lender and Mike's job as a real estate agent is to, all the fiduciary responsibility stuff, of course. But aside from that, it's like you have a want and a need, and we're in this challenging market we have the tools and the systems to get you there. Trust us and follow our lead.
Yeah.
And look, I've got clients. I was telling Al before you hopped on. I've got clients right now that, they have a casual agent, and it's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen when looking at Zillow twice a week and telling your agent you want to go see this house. You're gonna have a really, really hard time.
Here's an example. Here's an example of that. I have a client now that's a referral from a friend. He was working with an agent that was definitely a part-time agent. Didn't know what they were doing. Were not aggressive enough. The other agent on the other end also borderline doesn't know what they're doing. Hard to get to communicate with. Hard to get in touch with. They thought they had a contract. Never heard back. So he was just like, screw this. And then my friend sent me over to this guy. Lo and behold, I just bugged the hell out of this guy. We made sure we were super aggressive to get in touch with this person. It took 2.5 weeks, but we got in front of this person, got the offer in. They're purchasing a hunting property, and we're going to be closing in 2 weeks. But without that, this guy could have just been like, well, damn, I guess we're not going to have a contract because with this agent doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what, as two of your friends for over 20, 25 years, we know how annoying you can be and how much you bug people. So it doesn't surprise us that you bring that same intensity and energy to your clients. We love that. That's what you need in this day and age. I mean, you talk about violence in the market. Mike MYSLINKSI is the kind of guy, he keeps a shovel and a bag of lime and a couple trash bags in his frunk of his car. You know what I mean?
His
This
frunk?
guy's ready to go to war.
Nice, dude. Frunk, I love that.
Yeah.
That's because I do have a Tesla with the front trunk.
I know.
Right.
He's got the front trunk.
Yeah. Al
Yep.
doesn't misspeak.
I love it.
Yeah. That was a perfect opportunity to bring you in because we were just talking about that,
So-
needing an agent, an aggressive agent.
Mike, where are you off to right now?
Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, to visit somebody that all three of us know from high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I'll send you a text to it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to
cool.
say, I wonder if I can guess who it is. I'm going to try.
Are you visiting?
There's no way. There's no way you'll guess. You
Are
have no
you-
idea this person is here.
Are you visiting for consultation purposes?
Yeah, we're gonna go. He wants to potentially list the house. Isn't sure if it's a good thing for him to sell it or just to rent it.
Gotcha.
He does not have a interest rate below 3, so it is not as advantageous as kind of may seem on the surface because
Yeah.
it wasn't for that long ago, and he needs to move closer to Philadelphia, I believe. We're going to find that out as well, and wants to make sure that he does the right thing. And if we need to list it, we'll list it. We'll come to a conclusion together, what makes the most sense. And, if it makes sense to work together or not.
Yeah. So
Love
you heard
that.
it first. Mike and his client are going to come together. Let's wrap it up there. Mikey, Drive safe, baby. I know that thing's self-driving, but I don't want to see your head blow up live
Stay
on
safe
camera.
on them roads, Mikey. Stay safe on them roads.
No hands.
All right, Mikey. Have a great day. I'll call you later, bud.
Okay, man. Thanks,
All right.
guys. See ya.
Later,
All right, see
Mikey. God, what a great drop in, Mike MYSLINKSI.
All right, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up tight. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yep. 37
Alvin?
minutes. Yeah.
We covered a bit. Housing market.
Yeah.
Depends on your region. Don't pay attention to the headlines. Get a local expert. Figure out what's going on. Mortgage market. Interest rates are fluctuating daily, but incremental changes. If you have a want and a need, let's figure out what the payment is. Let's figure out a budget, and let's get you a plan.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to wrap us up?
No, I think that's great. We'll see if there's any movement in the market this week. And you can find us same time next week, and we'll let you know what's going on.
We'll let you know what's going on. Visit our YouTube channel. Please, if you can, like and subscribe. If you've made it this far, you've stuck it out. You're a diehard. You probably already like and subscribe. But if you're new to the channel, check us out. Check out our other stuff. Check out our shorts. Have a great weekend, Alvin.
We love you, and we'll see you next time. God
Later.
bless.